up, Headspaces? It's your brother from the ancient mother. Once again, VJ with a hell of a flu, but I came through for you. It's SA Hip Hop. We do it all day, every day. The review I'm doing today, and it's a very profound topic that I want to address with y'all. The idea of the tradition of art as either historicist or futurist. Now, these are not big words. I think they're plain to understand to anybody. When I say historicist, I mean artists whose inspiration, artists whose direction, artists whose whole style and scheme is really centered around moving according to a nostalgic historical pattern. Artists whose art occupies the space of that which has been done and expanding on the pattern. And then on the other side you have futurists. These are people who have been known as the avant-garde. These are people who are there to listen to what already exists and are moved by the compulsion to push it forward in ways that are sometimes so weird that they completely alienate the current audience. Now, what I want to say about that is, if you look at the culture and history of art, and I'm talking art in general, including hip-hop as an art form, including rap as an art form, historicists have been important in this way. Historicists help us understand how far we've come in the tradition of a certain art form. They help us put together the pieces up until now. They are practitioners who utilize the present moment to really reinvent the momentum of culture as it reproduces itself. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, when one is stuck in a historicist mold, they can keep themselves out of the conversation of being innovators. They can keep themselves outside of the conversation of being those who are regarded as progenitors, founders, and creators of new ideas, new styles, and new techniques. Futurists, in other words. Now, before you accuse me, VJ, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything new is taken from the old. Yes, 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 I know. However, it is the configuration of how you put the old together in ways that have never been put together before. That's all it's about. Originality really isn't that hard to do. It comes from an organic place where you seek to understand the kind of historical impetus that has given birth to an idea in order to understand how far it can be stretched. And you utilize the ingredients of what has existed to put it together in ways that have not yet been configured before. In other words, you create motifs that are apart from the typical process. Now, that's an innovator. That's a futurist. Going back to the actual review, this is a cat from Elanga, from Ekapa, part of this exciting new wave that is being defined as Xhosa trap. Now, right there, two interesting things. Ubu-Xhosa, nobu-trap. These are two things that you might think as itibani, but as life has taught us, according atibani. And in the lesson of according atibani, the influence of trap music has undoubtedly found its way through each and every youth corner in the world. And there are millions of kids who are redoing these 808 drums, who are redoing these ambient sounds, who are redoing the auto-tune sound, who want to be in the image and likeness of a Future, of a Young Thug, of a Trippie Redd, you name them. The whole tradition of trap has given birth to a rich legacy. And this legacy has pretty much stepped into a place where it has enough history that we can regard a lot of artists operating within it as historicists. They are doing what has been done constantly, over and over and over again. And again, if you appreciate the pattern enough, you don't mind. I, in particular, will appreciate my historicists, but I'm a real fan of innovators, because I think in order for every age of art to prove the essence of how far it can grow, it needs innovators to break the wall. Everything in life requires people who are brave and courageous enough to think outside of the accepted norms. Hip-hop has gone through this for years. There were people who, when hip-hop was born, used to shit on breakdancers. And then that became cool. There were people who used to shit on MCs with the Kangol caps and the Adidas shell toes with the no laces. I'm trying to say that in every era, those people are seen as futurists. And they're so far from what is current that the historicist has a tendency to dismiss them. And today, I feel like the same thing is happening among trap. There are trap artists whose sound is so massively adjacent to the traditional boom bap hip-hop sound that a lot of heads whose growth has chosen to remain in that place do not evolve with it. And again, that's a preference. But do not use your preference to dismiss a legitimate art form. Say I don't like the art form, but when you go as far as saying the art form in itself is not impressive, is not valuable, and is not meaningful, you are taking a personal perspective and relaying it out as something absolute. SimulationRxps is a kid from Cape Town who is in the historicist tradition. His beats sound pretty typically trap. His approaches sound pretty typically trap. His ideas, his whole sonic texture. And the one thing that stuck out for me for this album, which I felt was a glimmering hope, was the fact that he chooses in many instances to carry his raps off in that Kapa street slang, which kind of resonated with me deeper than when he raps in English. Because I feel like the default for a lot of young rappers in the trap sound is for them to tweak their accents so deep into what they hear in the American sound that as a South African you feel like you're listening to somebody whose influence is somewhat alienating them from a very, very powerful principle. And this principle is something I call cultural empowerment. Now what do I mean by that? Culture is fluid. I'm in no way a purist. In ways that we cannot fully control. Culture grows, it interacts, it intermingles, it moves around people, and it takes whatever influences the people who live in that age deem fit and are attracted to. And a lot of the times, these influences are forced, but sometimes these influences are chosen, and sometimes it's a little bit of the two. Now, if we really want to look at what's going on in this age where we're being influenced by an industrial capitalist system in an African country which is still recovering from the oppression of a colonial legacy, we kind of have to see the resonance and the repercussion of that. We are in an age where, because what technology has done is opened a lot of younger kids to the rest of the world, I feel like what has happened is they have taken the light of the internet at the expense of the importance of their indigenous space. Now, I don't want to speak here as a traditionalist. Again, I speak here as a cultural empowerment activist. When you go to other people doing what they have done, even if you do it better, they won't respect you because you are coming to play their game on their terms, in their way. But when you bring with you, even in your side pocket, a little bit of where you come from, you have the power to shift the dynamic. You have the power to do things that they will not be able to do because they do not come from this dynamic you come from. African Americans are people who have greatly influenced our aesthetic, our style, and our fashion, and our language. I myself, growing up in Elokshin, cannot deny the influence of hip-hop, the influence of slang or quote-unquote ebonics. I say the word nigger to Amajitam. I wear classic American brands. I am able to take in hip-hop, and for me it's not a contradiction because I'm able to ask myself that when I meet anybody from any part of the world, how much of my ancestral design do I take on? How much of me is still that which seeps through my blood and hasn't been influenced by any television or media? And I think young artists such as SimulationRxps need to ask themselves this question. If they truly are Xhosa trap, are they more Xhosa than they are trap? Or are they more trap than they are Xhosa? He calls himself SimulationRxps, and I think it's ironic because I ask myself, does he realize the simulation he's trapping himself in? Has he created this cultural wall to become bigger within it, or does he know that he's locked within it? And I'm here to say maybe the raps are trapped by the simulation. This album delivered an incredible glimpse of hope. I say again, Sim is a talented artist with vision, with great execution, and if I wasn't bringing this conversation in the context of that, I'd probably give this album a good 9 out of 10. But I can't, because I feel beyond art, there is culture. art operates within culture. And in order for artists to be empowered, they need to understand the culture they operate within. So I cannot give an artist who I feel doesn't yet understand the culture that they operate in a glowing review, because I feel like I would be kind of sabotaging him. Sim, if you're watching this, you have immense potential, and there is room to embrace more of ubuxhosa bakho than ubutrap bakho. Why? Because in the world that you inhabit today, there is more Xhosa. There is more trap than there is isiXhosa. isiXhosa is in a place of being endangered, while trap is in a place of being lucrative and growing. And if we really understand the power of where we come from, if when you proclaim your heritage, and I'm not talking about that cheesy stuff we do, because culture, it goes deeper than what you wear, how you dress, and how you speak. It's about how you think. If your way of thinking is totally directed towards being part of the capitalist machine, you are going to lose yourself. Because capitalism promotes only one culture, and that is Western imperialism. It will use all of our cultures, and it will use them on its own terms. So I'm giving SimulationRxps live from Elokshin a very reflective and compassionate 7 out of 10. Stylistically, it has promise. Culturally, it's stuck. And he's not the only artist who's stuck in this. Stuck in a place where finding how you can be more of yourself is more important than finding how you can blend in with where the rest of the world is at. And this is what will give birth to a new generation of innovators. You're a wonderful historicist, and again, if I was going to rate this album on a historical context, it would probably be a classic. But what am I doing? Giving credence to things that are continuously being done. If we do not acknowledge and ask the question, when are we going to move in the same circles? I think it's about time that we start exploring outside of this pattern and ask ourselves, influence yethu isisapi. SimulationRxps, amazing artist, Xhosa Rap movement. I'm a great fan. This has been VJ. And you don't agree with what I'm saying? Holla at me on the comment section. Please subscribe. It's been the Headspace Kwakhona. I love you.